Hello everyone, today's video is about post-exertional malaise or PEM. As per usual, nothing I'm saying should be construed as medical advice. This is for informational purposes only. If you need medical advice, please talk to your healthcare provider to get that advice. So I wanted to post this video, our video on this topic because PEM is just such a thorn in the side of so many of my patients, and I recently had a case where their PEM just really improved significantly, and I thought, like, I should do a video about PEM. So for folks who aren't familiar, because maybe you or someone you know is suffering from PEM and you've just never heard this term before, post-exertional malaise basically refers to, as the name suggests, after exertion. So whether it's after exercise, or even if it's after just exerting oneself more than for some folks, it's doing more than just like sitting on the couch or lying in bed, but it's basically feeling significantly worse in various ways after exertion. So malaise being that term of like just like I'm kind of feeling off, I'm kind of feeling unwell. My energy levels are lower, my pain levels are up. Maybe it gives me a headache, might be part of that constellation, but just kind of feeling like worse for wear from exertion, which of course is so frustrating because generally to be as healthy as possible we need to exercise, like at the very least, like be able to go out for walks and hopefully like lift some weights, do some cardio, this type of thing. And so folks who are suffering from post-exertional malaise are really can feel really painted into a corner, unfortunately, because they're kind of darned if they do, darned if they don't. So when it comes to patients dealing with post-exertional malaise, I've seen many patients with this as one of their symptoms. It's a hallmark of chronic fatigue syndrome and in most cases. And then patients who maybe don't fit the exact criteria for chronic fatigue syndrome, but maybe if they're suffering from chronic infections, suffering from mold illness, suffering from chronic digestive disorders, other things that might lead to malnutrition issues. A lot of patients who are suffering from different types of dysautonomia, like POTS, will suffer from post-exertional malaise, which is a little different just in terms of the pathophysiology around that. But and I'll kind of maybe say the POTS exercise issues related to folks with POTS, we'll maybe say we'll leave that for a separate video because that's a different kettle of fish. So maybe I'll leave that off the list here. Again, different mechanism behind that. But with folks who are dealing with post-exertional malaise, there are solutions. I have many patients now where they no longer have post-exertional malaise. We see a gradual reduction in the intensity of those symptoms, like they have less and less malaise over time. Never thought I would say malaise so many times in one video. And then eventually, they're like, I can just go out and exercise the way I want to, or at the very least, maybe there are some cases where, say they've been, ill for like 20 plus years, and like, oh, I got ill in my 20s or 30s, and now I'm in my, 50s or 60s, and maybe like, well, like I'm maybe don't feel like I can get back to like playing like high level soccer again or something, but at least I can do all the exercise I want. I can go out and play pickleball, I can hit the gym, I can go swimming and not feel like garbage afterwards. So when it comes to resolving post-exertional malaise, I had with some of the patients that I've worked with, it's just something that gradually gets better as we're getting rid of the mold toxins, as we're treating the chronic infections, as we're getting rid of the SIBO or other types of digestive disorders, as we rectify the methylation cycle deficiencies, as we get rid of the heavy metals, etc. So sometimes in a number of cases, I would say, I don't know, 50-ish% of the time, 40 to 50% of the time, we'll see the PEM get better just as the underlying root cause is being addressed. In the remainder of cases, the thing that seems to be the most important to get on top of is supporting their mitochondria. So if we look at things from a bird's eye view, what's going on with post-exertional malaise? Well, the individual in question is expending energy and then they feel unwell afterwards. So what it is akin to, in my understanding, in my opinion, is it's kind of like you're already barely making ends meet with your like sort of metaphorically, barely making ends meet in terms of your like financial expenses, and then you go out and decide to put a sort of a frivolous, I'm saying air quotes here, frivolous purchase on your credit card, and you don't have the money to pay it off in time, so now you're getting hit with like 20% interest, and so now you're in even more debt, and so you have to like you're suffering the consequences from having like overspent, if you will, because you didn't have the financial resources to do it. Now, of course, exercise is not frivolous. I'm not, trivializing things at all, but for the sake of the metaphor, please bear with me. So essentially, what a person's doing when someone's suffering from post-exertional malaise is they are spending energy that they don't have, and then when one spends energy they don't have, they generally have to pay it back with interest. So they're just, oh, now I have to go lie down, I have to go rest, and I get to feel, unwell to boot. So that's kind of the interest, so to speak. So how can we rectify that? How does mitochondrial support, fit into that? Well, if we can boost up the cellular energy production, then the patient has more energy to then spend on their exercise purchases, so to speak. So it's kind of like injecting some energy cash into that kind of scenario or that metaphor. So this one patient that I'm referring to here, so this patient was suffering from chronic fatigue, a lot of pain, a lot of headaches, a lot of like balance and dizziness issues. There's no POTS or anything like that going on, and there's some other symptoms too. I just can't remember off the top of my head exactly what they were, but quite a lot going on. So this patient had been working with and had a history of some digestive issues too. Patient had been working with another clinician. Was working on the gut stuff, which was doing quite a bit better. Was working with some general supplement support, some B vitamins, some hormone replacement, different things like that, and was doing better on a digestive level, but still really struggling with energy and PEM, and that was really and a lot of aches and pains and things like that, headaches, etc. So long and short of it is we wound up doing some testing, found evidence of significantly elevated mycotoxins, started on a mold treatment protocol, and that was starting to improve some of the aches and pains and headaches and things like that. It was like starting to move the needle, but the post-exertional malaise was still a notable problem, and energy levels just really weren't moving. So we got the detox support in place, which was glutathione, liposomal glutathione, activated charcoal. We held off on any nasal spray because it was a little bit rough kind of phasing in some of the detox support, so we held off on the nasal spray. But then I recommended that this patient bring in some mitochondrial support because I wanted to start boosting up energy levels and hopefully started to tackle the PEM, because this person really, they had kind of a physical job, wanted to start being able to work, but just wasn't able to work, and that of course is having a eroding effect on their mental health, and all the weren't sleeping as well because not really spending much energy. So somewhat ironically, it's like, oh, I don't have the energy to exercise, but if I don't do more activity, then I have trouble sleeping. So anyways, just big, it was a big mess. So brought the mitochondrial support into place, and maybe 3, 4, 5 weeks later, had a follow-up, and patient's doing markedly better. Energy levels are up. Person's able to do work. Not able to work for like, say, the 10-hour days or whatever they were used to once upon a time, but get up to like 4 to 5 hours, which was a lot better than the basically close to 0 hours a day, or like maybe this very, very modest amount of a very, very light work that they could handle. So they markedly increased that in that time period. Aches and pains were down. Mood was a lot better. Sleep was doing better. If I didn't mention already, headaches were doing better. So it really looked like this person needed some energy infused into their system, and lo and behold, that makes a lot of sense based on the physiology that's been discussed so far. So mitochondrial support can be very, very helpful. Now, I posted many videos about mitochondrial support, what I refer to as comprehensive mitochondrial support. I recently posted a video just completely dedicated to that, so please look that up in my recent videos, or keyword search it on my YouTube channel if you're not on there already, if you want to cross-reference that. But the mitochondrial support I'm referring to is this product called Mitochondrial Support Formula. It's made by a company called Signature Supplements. I don't have any financial affiliation with that company whatsoever, and it's basically robust dosages of certain B vitamins, amino acids, minerals, trace minerals, and some antioxidants. So it's all of the main workhorse ingredients that are needed for the mitochondria to make energy. The patient was already taking some B vitamins, so I didn't bother putting them on a multi, but that's so that anyways, normally I pair the mitochondrial support formula that I just mentioned with a high potency multi-nutrient, but they already had enough of those other sort of trace ingredients there that we just worked with the mito support powder, and that was what we added in. So just a really good example of how direct mitochondrial support can really help with post-exertional malaise, and I've seen analogous results in other patients before too. Now, sometimes improvement rate is much slower. Sometimes we might, like with this patient, if say they're roughly 50-ish% better with their PEM, give or take, in that say 4 to 5 week period. Sometimes we see like a 20% period in that period of time. Sometimes we don't see any change with the mitochondrial support because we're actually missing something else. We're missing some other root cause factor. Maybe the patient has a chronic infection as well. Maybe we haven't done enough work on their gut yet. Maybe they're still struggling and they're using all the energy that we're infusing into the system through the mitochondrial support to help process mycotoxins faster. And so there can be variable timelines, but when there's PEM, then we really want to think about those mitochondria. So I hope this was of interest. If you wouldn't mind, please taking a moment to like, share, subscribe, and or post a comment on the video. I would really appreciate it. And if you have any questions or comments on this topic or anything else, just post in the comment section below, and I will do my best to answer as soon as I can.